The gospel message for today has a sudden fast turn. At first, they are amazed at Jesus' gracious words. And then in a short span of time, they are filled with sudden rage, where they actually attempt to throw Jesus off a cliff. Well, we can think of another time in the scripture when the crowd turns on a dime, from singing alleluias to shouting, "Crucify him." Jesus had just reminded the people that we heard last week of Isaiah's promise, the good news to the poor, the release of the captives, sight to the blind, and freedom for all who are oppressed. And Jesus proclaims, today is the reading is fulfilled in your hearing. So what was it that turned them into such rage? Was it beginning with the tone of the question, is this not Joseph's son? Were they beginning to doubt that one of their own, who they watched grow up as a child, could possibly be the Messiah? No way. Was it that Jesus knew that they were going to want signs and wonders in order to prove who he was? Or maybe it started to sink into him that when Jesus read the message of Isaiah, he excluded one part of a sentence. The full sentence was, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor and the day of God's vengeance. And then Jesus goes on to give two examples of God's inclusive love, even to the Gentiles. That he didn't pick a widow from Israel, but picked a widow from Sidon, a Gentile. And didn't heal a leper from Israel, but healed the leper from Syria, a Gentile. Is there a note of privilege there among the people? That the year of the Lord was supposed to be for them and not for those Gentiles, those other people? Certainly the rural people of Nazareth were poor, and they had been severely oppressed by the Roman occupation. They had witnessed and experienced for themselves great cruelty at the hands of the Romans. So what? No vengeance? And what's this talk about inclusion of God's grace to Gentiles? And the anger just boils up inside of them and pours out in hot rage. And the crowd surrounds Jesus, and they take him up to that cliff and attempt to murder him. Now, every single pastor who ever preaches a prophetic word does so with a little bit of trepidation, because we all have that cliff in the back of our minds. So I invite you to remember the second passage today. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love does not insist on its own way. And we are used to hearing that love is passage of 1 Corinthians at weddings, right? But it was never Paul's intent. Paul was using it to say who we are as the core of Christ's body. That's how we are to live. And if we are honest, who among us doesn't want to have our own way? It sure makes things a lot easier when it's going the way we want it to, isn't it? Most importantly, it gives us a sense of control. That things aren't going to go haywire in our lives. It wards off all of our fears. and our loss of power and that undesired change that gets imposed upon us. We want it our way. Certainly, much of the gun violence today is due to this. And we wonder what our world is coming to when our youth have to worry about a lockdown every month, just in practice, let alone in reality. And how the parents worry for their children. You know, for myself, I remember hiding my head in the desk during the Cuban Missile Crisis. That dates me, others I hope. But this crisis came to an end. When will the gun violence come to an end? Rage and animosity of crowds and horrific acts of violence are scenes that we see all too frequently today. Where is the love? It was in 2003 that the Black Eyed Peas released a song with that very title, Where is the Love? It was co-written by Justin Timberlake and will.i.am, and it was an immediate global success because the words, the lyrics of the song really hit the hearts of people throughout the world. And then in 2016, the song was re-released with some updated words due to a massive chorus that was saying, we need that song again. Why 2016? It was the year of the attack in Paris, and then in Belgium, and the failed coup attempt in Turkey, and the Orlando Pulse nightclub shooting. It was the year of the deaths of Philando Castile in St. Paul, Minnesota, and Alton Sterling in Baton Rouge, and the shooting of 5 Dallas police and the injury of 9 other officers. Remember it? Feel it? Now, I know a large number of you are not into hip-hop music, but I think it's important for us to hear the lyrics and to listen to the voices that are crying out for love. You know, I'm connected on Facebook to a group known as Progressive Christians. And this helps me stay tuned to the voices that feel disenfranchised from the church. They are seeking a faith and a life that has meaning and purpose for them. And you can tell there is great spiritual starvation in our nation. Many are millennials, many are younger. But over and over and over again, they express that they are looking for a faith, they are looking for a church that cares for the poor and the oppressed and works for justice and gives voice to the voiceless. Bottom line, they're looking for a church that will put their love into action. Where is the love? You know where we find it. Right there. Jesus' all-encompassing, giving, forgiving love for all people. The very love that St. Paul was talking about. Where is the love? It is in you, in each one of you. It's what roots you to the very spirit of Christ. And when God's love moves within us, we recognize that we are interdependent and that another person's well-being is tied up with our own well-being. And that when one suffers, we all suffer. And when one rejoices, we all rejoice. Our love is desperately needed beyond these walls. person to person to person. Your love is needed more than you know these days. People need to see your love in action in order to find hope. Love is the key. Love is the answer. Love is the solution. Love is powerful. Because God's love wins. It's the power of God's love that enabled him to walk through the crowd and away from the cliff without being harmed. It's the power of God's love that raised Jesus and all of us from death to new life. That is the power of love. So may the power of God's love move and breathe in and through us. May it speak loud volumes into our own community. May it bring hope to the hopeless. That we may do and say everything in God's love. May it be so. Amen.